Alright, this is video 2 on this Prius. I hooked up the refrigerant analyzer and I got the air of high air. That usually means I have next to no refrigerant. So I hooked up the gauges and I got 0. This is just a misreading because I didn't calibrate my gauges. But there's 0 PSI in the system. And remember, I did a visual over this. I did have some suspects about this corner up here, but it could be anywhere along the system. And now I'm going to hook up the nitrogen. So the nitrogen tank is hooked up. I have it up to roughly 150 psi. I'm going to open up the high side and I'm going to let it in. And here goes the nitrogen. I'm listening for a hiss. I didn't do no vacuum pump yet, and I didn't do no refrigerant, nothing to waste, just nitrogen, no big deal. Normally you would have this on your push around cart, you would have this attached to your refrigerant machine, you would have this in an area normally in your shop where you didn't have to get it because it's attached. It's part of your system. This becomes a makeup of permanent part of your gauges. So there's no confusion. It's not an extra step. It is always there. And that's one of the good things about a 4-port gauge. I could do vacuum here, pressure or refrigerant here, and have my gauges all hooked up at one time and never contaminate the system with moisture or refrigerant or vacuum anytime I want it, because it's all controlled by the on and off right here. So you never have to get anything inside your gauges. So I'm roughly at 128 psi. There we go, 150, and there we go. I'll stop right there. And now, let's see where we're going. Now these are newer hoses on here. If you recognize, this is my new set that's been through all the tests. I've taken it out to being used daily now. And let me close this, and we're closed here. And tightness test, hit enter to start. Oh shit, sorry, other gauge, other method. Okay, let's start this over again. Live on camera, I screw up. Okay, starting 150, tightness test, and enter. And hit enter to start. There's my PSI, a difference from one side to the other as they drop, or the difference in dropping, and this will count it down right there. This is counting off the time. And right now, since I did not let the system relax and pressurize for 10 or 15 minutes like you should before you start your tightness test, especially if you think your system is tight. When you first pump up your hoses, you had a system that might have been dead a year or two, and you first put pressure. All the hoses are stretching a little bit as you first hit them with some pressure, and they're heat, so that if they stretch, you might lose pressure. And if you go right into tightness test right after you put pressure in there, you may be reading the relaxing of all the rubber and movement and not an actual leak. But if I'm looking for a big leak, I mean, look at this. 3/10 of 1 psi within the time since I started this in 1 minute and 3 seconds ago. Okay. Now, that could be the rubber relaxing, or that could be a leak. Maybe I have one of those leaks that at 150 psi it doesn't leak. Maybe I have one of those leaks that it leaks after running and you turn it off, and then it leaks and releases all the refrigerant, but when you pump it back up and use it and it gets hot, it stops leaking. Like that last video in the Jaguar, where it was leaking like a sieve everywhere, but it was empty, but when I pumped it up, turned it on, and started the car and went back to leak check, the leaks disappeared. Wow, miracle. And I leak checked it with the ultrasonic leak detector. I leak detected it with the UV dye. I leak detected with a heated diode H10, and I leak detected it with the Stratus and bubble soap, and showed the difference of which leak detectors worked best on what kind of leaks. And some of them didn't always pick up the same leak. So when someone tells you they could find any leak with one leak detector, many times in videos I proved it over and over, you cannot. Even if you know exactly where the leak is and you hold the known good leak detector right up to it, one doesn't pick it up. You grab the other leak detector and this one picks it up. You grab the other one, that one doesn't pick it up, and you pick up the other one and this one picks it up. You know, you got it like that. But then you go to another leak and the ones that picked up this leak might not pick up this leak, but another one does. Okay, Einstein, explain that one. This is why don't take anybody's word on it when they use one type of leak detection method as one and only God and will do everything. Especially when they're using a puddly ass little $100 leak detector or something like that. And don't even go there. All right, so I'm gonna jump on to evacuating this out, filling it, because the leak rate on this, if it is a leak rate under this pressure, is only 0.7 within the 3 minutes of this time. And I gotta get moving. All right, next video will be evacuation and recharge. And at the time of evacuation, I will pump in the UV dye into this system just for the hell of it, because I always do, and I'll do it at this time before I start it up. But UV dye in there, vacuum, and then charge it up and start it, and we'll be back for the third video.